Hey there, welcome to the Knife Show once again. Today we're going to be talking about grinds and be showing you examples of grinds that I have on a knife, by the way. Not grinding at the discotheque with your lady, just grinds on a knife. What is the grind? The grind is the shape that they put on the blade from this part to this part. And I'm pointing just before the edge. The edge is a different matter. Sometimes the edge and the grind are incorporated into one another, but this will be talking about the grinds and discussing their merits and what may be the best grind for each task. So let's get started. Okay, so the first grind we're going to talk about, probably my favourite grind. Yes, so favourite grind, I'm a nerd for knives. You've got the convex edge. This is a full convex. So this whole grind is one giant edge, pretty much, from the top here right to the cutting surface. This is just one long, gradually swooping line down towards the edge, just a bit of a bend in it. Very similar to the flat grind, which I'll show you next, I think. But it does have that sort of, it's got the you know, when you start putting curves on things, curves are very strong geometrical structures, so then it adds strength to the edge. So that makes for a very durable edge that will last a long time and keep a working edge for a long time. The negatives of this edge are that it can get razor sharp, but it doesn't stay razor sharp as long. It just goes back to being very sharp or rather sharp or quite sharp, and it stays there for a long time. So again, it can be a very impressive grind if you want to show off to your friends or whatever. Look at this really sharp knife. It's impressive and it's easy to do. You can do it on a stone because it's what happens when you try and put a V grind on something with a stone, but you can make a few imperfections. You'll sort of wipe that V sort of into a curved shape. So you won't have that super sharp V grind, but you'll have sort of you think of it like a rugby player with his little head, and his big neck and his bigger shoulders all sort of sloping into one. That rugby player, if he ran headlong into a wall, he'd do a lot better than me with my long sort of floppy neck. So it's a really durable grind, and it's why things like axes and sort of big chopping tools go to convex. So this Gransper's mini hatchet, again, that's a full convex, and very sharp at the edge, of course, but you can smash this into things. It's got high impact resistance on a convex. So if you're looking at something for a big chopping task, you look for a convex ground tool. Woodworking, you find yourself having to accommodate for the convex grind by, zoom out there, changing your blade angle a little bit. So it's not as good for woodworking like your fine carving and stuff. Obviously can be done, but there are superior grinds for that. And slicing, well, slicing is as good as it is sharp. So these flat sides here, they do have that sort of flat grind effect where it pulls through soft materials really well, and batoning, of course, splitting. It's good for that because you do start to get that space because of the convex. If you get that full seal of knife versus wood where there's no air, breathing air, the knife can sometimes get stuck a bit easier. So convex has good insurance against that as well. So overall, very good grind, very versatile. Full flat grind. This grind is good, very good for food prep. It's good for wood carving, and it's good for chopping. It's a very good all-around grind as well. Quite simple. If you've seen a Swiss Army knife, you've seen a flat ground knife. Just one flat line and then an edge. So the edge is different on this one to those absolute convexes I was showing you before. So this one you can do flat the whole way down, and then you could put a convex on, or you could start thinking of like a 15-degree either side for perhaps a kitchen knife, or you could do your survival knife, which is what this would be. At your 30 degrees each side, sort of nice broad bit of extra durability just for reinforcing for those chopping tasks. So how does it do the different tasks? Well, food prep, A+, brilliant knife, slices through, soft material was excellently. Especially when you start getting broad faces like this, you really get sort of that control and strength through it, and things really do come apart quite well. There's a reason all your kitchen knives are flat ground. For batoning, probably not as good. Batoning,
it gets full wood contact. So the edge will make the initial split in the wood, and then the wood will, say if my fingers are the wood, so the edge will split that wood there, make sure not to cut myself, and the wood will just follow that grind, so it'll sort of be in full contact, so it can get stuck, especially when you pair it with these coatings you get sometimes. You can just see, this is from splitting with all these marks here, and they go all the way to the top, whereas if it was on a partially flat grind, which I'll show you next, the marks would stop here and the top would be free because there isn't any contact, so you get that bit of breathing space. Wood carving, it's certainly fine because it's very intuitive grind to use. It pretty much goes the way you point the spine of the knife, you'll be shaving wood that way. With a convex, you sort of need to angle it a little bit, and it's just a bit of getting used to. So very intuitive grind to use. Would not recommend it for splitting, and it'll chop just fine as long as you can get the weight behind it, which is why sort of you need something about 9 inches to make it a real good chopping knife. Scandi grind. This, along with chisel grind, sort of the quintessential woodworking grinds, because they've got very similar principles. You've got one flat surface here, and then you have a single edge starting from where you can see it, going right over there, over the horizon. So you've got 2 angles, right angle, and then you've got sort of a, say if that's 90 degrees, goes down to maybe 75 degrees, and then just keeps on going. So this is effectively a chisel, but a chiseled on ground on both sides. So as you can imagine, it makes it the superior woodworking grind because it bites in like nothing else. However, having such a long edge, there's a reason things like micro bevels exist, because they add strength. Convexing adds strength. These bevels will not withstand impacts or shocks very well. Unless you use a really, really good steel, like LT Wright does on this A2 Genesis, these carbon steels and these stainless steels, they'll fold on you and they'll chip on you if you ram them into things, especially when they're cold. Splitting, excellent splitting knives. Similar, if you think of that concept with the flat grinding, if you are forcing it through wood from the top, so my fingers are the wood again, goes through here, and then the wood will follow that initial angle, which is steeper than this angle here, so you'll start to get separation earlier, so the wood won't hug the knife as much. So great carving, great slicing, good batoning, just not an impact edge or an impact grind. Okay. Flat grinds again, but these are partially flat, so these have the benefits of the flat grinds more or less. Often less good at slicing, but better at sort of more heavy duty tasks. So you'll find it's a very common grind. They often call it a saber grind as well. Not to be confused with the concave grinds of like a hollow grind or anything like that. This is just, again, 2 angles, so a bit like the Scandi as well. You see the similarities there. However, this has a separate edge, so there's another bevel here, which again gives it that strength to be able to do all tasks reasonably well. So this will carve wood reasonably well, it'll slice quite well, and it does have that strength because of that micro bevel, and because it's has a stepped shoulder here, has the strength and the lack of full contact to be able to chop and batten quite well as well. So you'll find this on a lot of survival knives, just general purpose knives, because you really can't go wrong with this type of flat grind. So that's the Gerber strong arm. Leatherman uses the flat grind, or the stepped flat grind, with a partially flat grind in their skeletal knives here. And of course a very famous one, the USMC K-bar. And you can tell if you're wondering whether it's a convex or a flat, you'll be able to just put some light on it, and if the light's even across without any shadows or without any warping sort of close to here or closer to the edge, it's a flat, just a stepped flat. Oh, you can see that's sort of a concave in there. You can sort of see how it builds up shadows on either side. So, good chopping, good slicing, will do most tasks good or very well. And the final grind I'm going to talk about is a very common everyday carry grind, which is the hollow grind. It's a very, very sharp grind, and it's a pretty much good for slicing, good for EDC tasks, but not a great deal else. In my experience, so you've got a cold steel mini tuffler and you've got a Leatherman Crater C33. This is a very, very good knife for everyday carry, very cheap, and has just been bomb-proof really for me. And it holds its edge. It's a great grind to put on softer steels because it holds its edge very well, because you've got this thinness, you've got the edges here, and the edge stays thin until it starts to, you know, cave out again. So if you sort of look, I'll get that light on it. You can sort of see how the light is, there's like a dip in here, and that dip enables it to go narrow about, you know, a couple of millimeters before the edge begins. So the only thing you notice is as you sharpen it more and more. So over about 10 years, the knife really does start to sort of creep up towards the spine, but that's just part of it. So it makes for a very, very sharp slicing edge for things like, so perhaps not going through full thickness things like a tomato or something, although it will obviously do that fine as well, but through things like tape, paper, cardboard, your standard tasks that you would do with a pocket knife, it's probably one of the best grinds. Very, very weak, feeble grind though for chopping or impacts, and batoning it will do well enough because it does have this relief shoulder up here, but again, much more suited for your pocket knife type tasks. And lastly, this is the Chisel Grind. So this has a flat grind all the way to the edge, which you can see quite clearly as that second tone of metal there catching the light. Not all chisel grinds have to be fully flat all the way. The most obvious effect of a chisel grind is the other side is untouched entirely. So there is no grind on the other side at all. The other side is just a flat blank of metal. You can have chisel edges, which is just, which I guess this one could well qualify for as well. So this could be, you could say this is flat ground, but then again, this grind here does have some edge on it, whereas that truly is just flat and untouched. So chisel is just an edge on one side. Chisel edges are great woodworking edges, although this slip jointed Leatherman's probably not the ideal. My washing machine beeping there. This is a competent slicer. You will find, however, over an extended use, or if you're trying to do something fine, it will push the product, or the knife will push itself naturally towards the side that the edge is on. So, but the most important thing is with woodworking is that the edge has to be on the right side. So this side, because I'm right-handed, this is fine, because you obviously want the wood to hit this bevel here, get that back in focus, and then you want it to peel upwards off of that. Some knives, and I think the Emerson knives are often like this side is flat and the edge is on that side, so you sort of either have to hold it with the other side or you have to pull cut towards you, which just isn't natural. So those edges though are more designed for combat, which is a purpose that I didn't even cover in because it's not what I really think knives should be used for, unless you're a soldier or something. So there you have it. I wouldn't really even try to chop or split with the chisel ground tool, because I think it would be a weak edge, a bit like a Scandi. So that's chisel grind. That's my only chisel ground knife, this and my Micro, and my other couple of little Leathermans. So I don't really have a great deal of experience with them, apart from using actual wood chisels, which I have done a fair bit. Cool. Chisel grind. So, what kind of grind do you want? Well, I prefer the Convex grind. I prefer this because it is very durable, it does things fairly well, and it is easy to sharpen. Because it's compatible with the Worksharp sharpening system which I use, that puts convex grinds on knives, but because this particular example is a full convex, very, very strong for your outdoors and survival tasks. I would rely on that grind all day long. And probably my other favourite grind, because it's what I enjoy using knives for the most,
which is sitting around doing a bit of wood carving, the Scandi Grind. Very, very cool, and again, easy to sharpen because you just lean it down, as I've showed in my video down there, how to keep your bushcraft's knife sharp. You just flatten that whole edge against the surface and you rub, and it makes it sharp as again. So Scandi and Convex, I would use those, and I'd use them in pocket knives too, which I do. I carry a Falkniv and U4 very often, which is a convex ground. Yeah, sure, I touch it up probably every few weeks on there, but that's made out of a super steel anyway, so it doesn't really need the sharpening. It does have that extra edge holding factor, but yeah, you touch it up a bit on the workshop or on a leather strop or something, but that's really it. So yeah, but again, any knife that's sharp will do what you need it to do. It's just when you start to use knives for things like chopping, which really other tools do exist for anyway. It's when you start abusing your edges and your grinds a bit that it starts to make a bit more of a difference what you've got there. So thanks for watching my video. I thought I'd just make a video. I haven't got anything new to review, but I will have something next week. So I've just been testing stuff. That's also not really ready to review much just yet. If you like my channel, subscribe. Check me out on Instagram as well. Cedric Ada is the name. My dog's name, Cedric and Ada. 2 dogs, 2 names. So that's my Instagram name. Look that up. I post things from time to time. Knives, generally, camping tools, things like that. And like and share and subscribe and comment and what's your favourite grind, all that sort of stuff. Let's talk. So thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.